Get to know Texas politics. RagingElePhantsRadio.com.
All right, Saints and Patriots. Even when it's not election season, it's election season. The Texas Republican Party, or I should rightly say the Republican Party of Texas, the Texas GOP, has its convention coming up in the middle of June. Raging Elephants Radio, of course, as I've already told you, is going to be streaming live once again, audio and video, third convention. Now, there's some things that go on at a state convention that are unique to it, and there are no other options to take care of some of the business, such as the election of the State Republican Executive Committee. Now, if you have been a consistent listener of your Texas network, the rebellious voice of Texas Liberty, you know that we have been focusing on the work of the SREC. And since we've started Raging Elephants Radio back in September of 2013, all of us have gotten ourselves a pretty detailed education on how effective and important, how powerful and influential the State Republican Executive Committee can be. It's essentially the board of directors for the party here in Texas, and the members of that board are only elected at the state convention. The delegates from each senatorial district, they will caucus at the convention in San Antonio this year, and within that caucus, candidates for those seats on the board of directors, they will sort of debate or make a presentation, and the caucus will then have an election, and it's done. Now, although the GOP is supposed to be anti-affirmative action, for some reason, we've got affirmative action in the GOP. For each senatorial district, for each committee member, there must be one man and one woman. Now, I'm in Senatorial District 7. That's where I reside. And Terri Leo, who's been active politically for quite some time, and we'll get into that, is running for the SD7 SREC committee woman position. And she joins me now on the Raging Elephants Radio conversation line and also via Skype for the RERvideo YouTube channel. Terri Leo, welcome to Raging Elephants Radio. Is this your this is like
Thank you for having me.
This is your first or second time on RER, Terri?
I think it's my. I know for sure it's my second.
Okay, good. So you should be. I mean, you should be completely and totally comfortable. You're not trembling in fear at all, right? I mean,
nah,
I didn't think so.
Don't scare me.
Terri Leo. Terri, a lot of people do not know you. I know that you've been involved with state politics, national politics, and certainly Harris County politics. I think it might be a smart starting point, just sort of rudimentary and sort of par for the course, that you kind of give people an idea of exactly who you are, sort of your professional background, where do you hail from, and sort of give a slight resume, a curriculum vitae of your experience when it comes to political activism, because they really don't know how detailed, how in-depth you've really been as far as GOP politics is concerned. Sir, ladies and gentlemen, this is Terri Leo. Go, Terri.
Okay, so I've been involved in the Republican politics in Harris County for the last 36 years. I started when I had my first child, really. I became very, very worried about what was happening in her generation, very disappointed in politics, and felt like I really could make a change with my skill set there. So I started what's called a prayer and action chapter leader of Concerned Women for America around my kitchen table. And soon that group outgrew my living room. And then we moved to a building. And we called ourselves the Mad Moms, or we kind of got that name. And we started helping candidates. We started helping our precinct chairmen walk blocks. We put up signs. And then when our babies got a little bit older, we involved them in that same thing. And it just so happened in 1996, my State Board of Education member I felt was not voting right. And so I decided that I was going to figure out how to run in a district with 2 million people and no money. So it was really a grassroots campaign, but a mad mom is worth $1 million. So it worked out well. I went on to serve 10 years on the State Board of Education. I feel like I'm very uniquely suited for the SREC in that I've had a lot of committee experience, bringing people that are in disagreement together, and also while at the same time holding very strong to my values, but also being able to go out to lunch with people after the vote is said and done and work together on those things that we can. And I think that's a very important quality to have as an SREC member, is to have the temperament to do so. I have chaired the National Nominations Committee for the Republican Party. I vice chair and also served on committees, as well as the secretary of the SD7 conventions. I served as the chairman of the state organization committee twice. So I have a lot of committee experience both within the party, and then on the State Board of Education, I was also the committee of instruction chair and also the vice chair of the board. So, I have a very good attendance record. I know one of the things that my opponent is saying is that she doesn't believe that I have the time to serve in this office, which is really kind of ridiculous. Really? Yes, because I've served in a district with 2 million people, and a senatorial district is much smaller than that. A state board district is 2.5 size a senatorial district. And on top of that, I'm serving both Democrats and Republicans. I'm serving constituents with no staff and no pay. So, and I successfully did that. I didn't miss one meeting in 10 years. I had perfect attendance. State board meetings are always recorded. Everything's a public record of whatever we do. And you will see in those records that when there was a meeting that lasted till 3 in the morning, I took my duty very seriously. And I was there till 3 in the morning, even if that meant getting up and coming back there and being in my seat at 8 o'clock.
Don't you think that's, it happens a lot, I guess, especially for political expedience, that someone decides they're going to make a judgment on how you should behave or make a judgment on your time management, et cetera, right? That's a bit presumptuous, don't you believe? You make your own decisions for your own life in regards to your family, your children, et cetera, right?
Yes, or talk about the attributes of yourself and why you think that you're good for the SREC. That would be the preferred way to do things. I will say that I think that my awards for my positions really show that I have a temperament to govern the party business, and that's really what the SREC does. I feel like I got involved because I read a Facebook post from my opponent and knew that she was running for the State Republican Executive Committee. And this is what it says. After careful consideration, come November, there are some winners of the primary that are such losers, it stills my heart. For the first time in my political life, I am urging people to undervote certain losers that won. So while now she has switched her tune to encourage people to vote a straight party ticket, which, as that's one of our bylaws, is to support Republican candidates. And I support all of our candidates that the people chose that came out of the primary, even if I didn't vote for them. I know better than anyone how disappointing it can be when you work really hard for a candidate and don't win. I lost my very first race on the State Board of Education by a very narrow margin. And I went and voted for my opponent in the November ballot because he was still better than a Democrat that supported a socialist agenda and platform. So I know that we have to stick together in Harris County or we are going to lose all our judge races again. And while she can encourage people to pull a straight ticket now, I'm not so sure she will be able to do that, because she's still talking about some of the judge races that she is disappointed in.
Okay, now just some house cleaning here. Is SREC members are term limited at three 2-year terms? Is that correct?
That's correct. Well, okay. No, I think it's I want to say it's 4 2 years.
Okay,
I think
now I think it's 4. I need to check the bylaws myself, the rules of the party myself. But 3 or 4. Is this a vacated seat, or are you challenging an incumbent?
No, it's a vacated seat. Sarah Singleton did a fine job. Mark Ramsey is running again as committee man, who is also endorsing me. He will. He so far it looks like will run unopposed. So this is an open seat in an open election. And I happen to have the bylaws right here in front of me, and it says, I'm going to read them exactly so I don't get it wrong. To act as the governing body of the Republican Party of Texas. I have lots of experience doing that such deed. To establish general policy for the party. I've served on resolutions quite often, and I kind of know, and that's sort of a love of mine because I believe that words mean things. And so our platform, words mean things. And so I think that's very important to hold elected officials' feet to the fire. One of the other things that we are supposed to do is to be responsible for general supervision and management of the party. I've already accomplished that, and I have numerous awards to show that. To foster and encourage growth of the party by electing Republican office holders. So how can you hold an office in which you're encouraging people to undervote and still meet the bylaws of your own organization that you're running for? The other thing is to provide an opportunity for full participation in party to all Texans who subscribe to the beliefs and principles advocated by the party. And I absolutely believe in that too, and that is really the way I will vote if elected to the SREC.
Okay, so we definitely have established your bona fides as being a party activist. No one can say that you are a Johnny-come-lately, or perhaps even charge that you're looking for some sort of political expedient, that you're trying to do this for your own self-aggrandizement. It seems
my
your
girl,
bona fides and the intent of your volunteerism and being in an office of public servitude on the SBOE, we can scrap that. Get out of the way. You're not a Johnny-come-lately. You've been around for a while. I think let's get to the meat of the issue, what you would like to accomplish if elected at the convention as a committee woman for Senatorial District 7. When it comes to the business of the party, what do you believe, Terri Leo, should be the #1 priority?
I think raising money is a huge priority. Each SREC member is encouraged to raise at least $1,000 to give to local candidates. And for me, I've already run a campaign and had to raise $75,000 on my own so I know how to approach that. I have a skill set to do that. Another very, very important thing is the State Republican Executive Committee also helps fill vacancies within the party when there's one, within the SREC when there's one, and also to help recruit candidates in areas where there is no Republican representation in the party. And I've run, I won't mention the fourth one, but I've run and recruited candidates for the State Board of Education when the incumbent was not doing the right thing. And luckily, my candidates won. That's Donna Bahorich, Barbara Cargill, Cynthia Dunbar, and then the one I won't mention because after we worked so hard to get her elected, she didn't turn out and vote the way that we thought that she would. Well, so we took her to task, and I ran somebody against her. One of the other things that my opponent is saying is that I don't have precinct chair experience, and that somehow that's a pre-qualifier. Yes, I know. And what I say is, no, the SREC is made up of committee. It's work by committee. I don't walk into a room looking for a fight. I have a very even-keeled temperament. And the statement that she has said publicly and even put in writing publicly, even if she's backtracking on that statement now and said, oh, well, I did that in, a moment of anger or a moment of weakness, that points to temperament. You hold yourself to a certain level when you hold an elected office.
Okay,
and so
well, we focused on her enough. I want to focus on you and what you are going to do, because we're going to make the assumption that you are going to be elected and that you're going to be sworn into office. And I certainly wouldn't have someone that out of SD7 in which I reside to sit there being a bump on the log. I know that if I was running for office, any office, especially SREC, I would identify things that I would like to see get achieved that I think the committee or the party is lacking, and that's what I want you to address. What do you want to achieve? I mean, sure, you have this charge to raise some money for the party and raise money for candidates. but there's other internal issues within the party that are very important to the SREC. Ballot initiatives, and in this the last few quarterly meetings, you had questions about censorship and Rule 44, and there's going to be a lot of things beyond just the raising of the money and the crossing the T's and dotting the I's on the daily operations of the party that the executive director and the chairman are primarily going to be overseeing. But the direction of the party, how things get done or what gets done under the pink dome, that is really what we've discovered the SREC needs to flex its muscle. What do you want to do when you get there? What imprint do you want to leave, whether you're there for one term or three?
Well, I think aside from raising the money and recruiting really good candidates in positions where there is none, I absolutely support holding Republican elected officials' feet to the fire and sending back voting records into their district if they do not support the majority of the Republican Party platform. I'm not throwing baby out with the bathwater, but I absolutely do think it's an appropriate task for the SREC to censure Republican candidates and office holders that do not subscribe to what the Republican Party said they believed in. A platform is like a doctrine of a church. You know, if you don't believe in the doctrine of the church, why are you attending there?
That's a good question. One that I ask all the time. One of the things that I'm going to be focusing on as we're recording this video and having this conversation is there are a lot of black Republicans here in Texas that are pretty much fed up with the neglect of all the chair people, all the way back to Tina Benkaiser, for the old timers that remember her, and even before then, where the promise, even in campaign mode, was to, hey, we got to go out and we've got to get more voters of color, conservative voters of color, to realize that they truly are Republican and they need to stop voting Democrat. They need to begin voting their values. And there was a lot of jawboning when I started my pack and started going across the state and talking about the demographic changes and what needs to be done. But I got to tell you, Terry, I am utterly disappointed, and now every black Republican that I know in the state of Texas have just about had it, because Tina Benkaiser didn't do anything, Kathy Adams didn't do anything, Steve Munisteri didn't do anything, Tom Meckler didn't do anything, and now James Dickey has not done anything. In the case of Kathy Adams and Steve Munisteri, they were going around the state evoking my name and the work that I was doing. I gave the nomination speech for Tom Meckler in 2010 on the promise that he was going to institute a robust engagement program. He didn't do it. He lost that race. And then when he won the special election to replace Steve Munisteri, he made the same commitment verbally, but didn't do anything, put no action, no money, no true human resources behind the effort. And now James Dickey has pretty much neglected it as well. We've pretty much had it. What do you think needs to be done of the party? Because it's still too white, it has no diversity, and in the future, if we want to maintain our record of having Democrats not achieve statewide office continually, as it has been now for a couple of decades, this is going to have to be done. So I need to know your thoughts on that, because now there's many of us that have said we have had it with the party, we've had it with the RPT, we've had it with these chairmen, and the SREC can be instrumental in putting a fire under the behind of whoever is going to be the chairman after the convention, and say it's time to put money behind this, it's time to put human capital behind this, it's time to get this party, get it some color, if you will. Terry, address this, please.
Well, I agree, and I will. I am supporting James Dickey, and I will speak to him specifically about that. Also, I think the other group that we're missing is young people, people who call themselves cultural conservatives. I think that we're really turning off a lot of younger voters as well as voters of color. I think those are two huge groups that if we don't do a better job in recruiting and fostering and speaking to and going to their clubs and, you know, helping support some of their ideas and their and what their clubs are doing, I think that we are going to see the Democrats take over because they're very effective at doing that. They're very effective at going to places where they know their voter base will be. And we are not. We tend to stay in a bubble. And I'm not afraid to go anywhere to speak that Republican message to whoever will listen. I think we have to do a better job as SREC members as doing that. I know with my own children, they tease me because, once again, I'm running for an office that pays nothing. But I am missing, it's a passion of mine. It is a passion of mine to grassroots politics. And I think that we have to begin there and work our way up. What ideas do you have, Claver?
Oh, I got plenty of them. I've been doing this for, I had my own political action committee
Right.
and all of that. And I don't have time in
Okay.
this interview to go through all of that. It is supposed to be a conversation, but I'm putting the spotlight on you.
But if I should win, I will go to leaders such as yourself to say, hey, what are your ideas? How can we do a better job at getting those people who are like-minded on us on most issues and getting them over to our side?
Well, I mean, if I'm not going to be flippant, and if I'm not going to dismiss your very important question, if I can answer it in 20 seconds, it's very easy. First, capital has to be raised. A budget
Yes.
has to be raised specifically for this operation, specifically for this goal, which has never been done. There has to be full staff. It has to be a 24/7, 365, a full department staffed and funded. And there's plenty of money in this state. There's plenty of deep top pockets for the chair and those in the SREC to approach them and say, hey, look, we need a good 6-figure yearly budget to get this done. And it has to, and then you have to have a good messaging campaign. You have to have ads up on multimedia platforms espousing a fantastic message that allows voters of color to realize that they're in the wrong party and that their values line up with the Texas GOP or the Republican Party in general. Right. That's what has to be done. And you have to find someone to lead that effort that has the experience to do that. And there's many within the party of color that have those capabilities. They have executive experience, they have business ownership experience. And the fact of the matter is that the chairman, male, female, throughout these years, and the SREC have been absolutely AWOL on this. They've been negligent on this, and I think it's a dereliction of duty. I have been saying for years the number one objective for the Republican Party of Texas, certainly the SREC and the chairman, is that you must expand the conservative Republican voting base through racial diversity. There's only so many white folks in this state that are going to continue to flip over, and you're going to find stagnation in the party. The growth field is in those precincts where we don't normally go.
Right.
And the effort has to be made. You got to have cash. You got to have continuing messaging through communications, TV, radio, billboards, certainly digital advertising. You have to have one-on-one engagement, and you have to have the people to do it. You can't
Right.
just have one person assigned as in charge of black engagement or Hispanic engagement. The task is too large from that. They have to have a staff, a minimal staff, the 3 to 4 has to be able to focus on that intently 100%. And you got to pay them.
Right.
Because it's that big of a job. You must pay them. They have to be on the payroll of the RPT. They can't do it on a part-time basis. That's my thoughts on it, Terri. Your response?
That's a good idea. And again, I'm not familiar with the exact budgets, but I do know that the more money we raise, the more money we can dedicate to that, as well as training people, going into precincts where we don't have anyone, in minority districts, and actually training them how to become a precinct chair, what to do with your grassroots activism. How do you get started in working for a candidate or campaign? And I think that a lot of people would, they just don't know where to start.
Well, there's plenty of folks out there that get them into the starting blocks and fire off the gun and say go after it. Guys, I'm talking with Terri Leo. She is running for the State Republican Executive Committee in Senatorial District 7, and you delegates from Senatorial District 7 that will be attending the convention, state convention in San Antonio. This is one of the candidates that you will be caucusing over and considering and voting on to be the new member of the board of directors for the party. Terri, I want to go back and take a look at the last few legislative sessions and the disappointment that we have had that so many issues in the platform were not dealt with, that none, essentially, of the legislative priorities of the last 3 platforms that have come out of conventions really were neglected, except for perhaps the pet project of Governor Greg Abbott.
And I would go even further to say not that they were neglected, but there were bills that were oppositional, that we had Republicans behind, that were oppositional to what's in our platform.
Amen, 100%. And on the SREC, what do you believe they should be able to do to stop this, to really kind of keep these guys and gals on the rails and achieving these legislative priorities? I mean, here's the deal. When I go back and I look at the Republican Party of Texas platform over the last several cycles, what I see is this. I really can't name 5 things out of the platform that have manifested into policy and law, legislative achievement that had landed on the governor's desk to be signed into reality. Not even a handful. And and it's like, well, what is the platform for? I mean, we have actually had those that have been in office, those running for office, that have maligned the platform and have said it really is no good. It's not worth anything, because once they get to the Pink Dome, the plutocrats call the shot. The financiers, the sponsors of those who are in seats of servitude, supposedly under the Pink Dome, they rule the roost, not we, the people that are represented at the conventions.
Right.
That's complete. That's just a disgrace. Terri, your thoughts?
Well, I think that you can use the bully pulpit of your office as an SREC member to go lobby when the legislature is in session, and bring back that information to the voters, to clearly spell out for elected officials, this is what we elected you to do, this is what you promised to do, but also money. Again, I know we talked a little bit about this with the training of minority groups. I honestly believe that we also have to direct the chair to which candidates we're going to fund and how much. And I don't want it going to ones that will not support the platform. And I think we have to maybe hit them in the pocketbook a little.
But I think a problem that we have is an extremely underinformed electorate when it comes to what happens in Austin. One of the reasons why I founded Raging Elephants Radio, that focuses almost entirely on the Texas political ecosystem, because of the lack of information to those specific districts about what their state reps and state senators are doing or not doing.
Right.
Do you find it objectionable that the SREC would be active in informing those districts, hey, your state rep or your state senator is adamantly working against the principles and priorities of the party, even if it falls short to being Rule 44, the information into that district saying your guy or your gal is stiff-arming the people on these issues,
right?
You won't have any hesitation. You won't be squeamish about that, will you, Terri Leo?
No, I'm not squeamish about that. I never have been, because really, I'm a mad mom at heart, just like you're a raging elephant. And that's my passion. Is I am not in this for anything else. I'm not in this to make friends. I really feel like I'm in this because it's an important business to be in.
I mean, this is a large SD. It's the largest. Okay, This is a large SD, and we have several state representatives within SD7. Would your grading of the performance of state representatives be exclusively to the SD7? Do you think that you would be stepping out of your bounds? Let's say if there was a state rep up in Tarrant County that in SD10 that was acting inappropriately, do you think that you have the purview to speak about their improper activity, or would you focus only on a Jim Murphy or a Dwayne Bohack or a Schofield? Would you only focus on what they're doing? Your thoughts on that, Terri?
No, I mean, I did that as the State Board of Education member. The State Board, in some ways, is a committee like SREC is a committee. So when you're voting on the SREC, yes, you're voting for your senatorial district, but it's also an overall vote. Same thing with the State Board of Education. To get anything done, you have to have a majority vote to move forward on an item. So I had no problem going to those squishy Republican districts and recruiting a candidate out of their district to run against them, and because I knew there was mad moms everywhere. So that's what I did. And they were extremely effective. And I had already set the tone or knew how to do it by going through 2 races myself. And so I even told them straight out, if you don't start voting correctly and supporting the things that you said you would do when you ran, I'm taking that information back to your voters. The other thing that I was notorious for that the so-called squishy Republicans did not like is I asked for a recorded vote on every last vote so that they could not hide behind a voting record.
And they have that now, which was a very good thing. I mean, there are those that, if they wanted to, could actually create scorecards now, because since James Dickey has come in, the SREC has decided to do that, and it's been extremely helpful, and it's going to allow for transparency and accountability. Last question, Terri. Maybe I should have asked this at the beginning. I don't kind of like it being the last question, but there was a lot. No, and I'm not going to sit here and be judgmental on it, but it was a point of contention in the last quarterly meeting of the SREC. The allowing of the log cabin Republicans to have a booth or not have a booth. Do you have a position on that? Did you consider that at all? And I'm not going to be judgmental here. I just want to know what your position. Now, there may be some out there that will be judgmental on it, but I'm not going to be. I am just curious about that battle. It was so intense. What were your thoughts on that? What would your position be on that, Terri?
I will tell you my personal position, and then I'll tell you. I was a huge supporter of marriage between a man and a woman in the textbooks. I don't approve of all the heterosexual as well as the homosexual stuff being taught to kids in the health books and all of that. So, I mean, education is education, and we're not doing a good job with the academic part. Why would we venture into that part? So that's my personal position. But my personal position is also superseded by, I believe strongly in the freedom of speech. If an organization is willing to peaceably assemble, which they had, I do not believe in limiting their free speech rights. I am strong enough to stand on my own values, but I also welcome vigorous debate. I think that without debate and without engaging in your culture and trying to understand your culture, you will never change your culture. So I absolutely think it's a good thing to include peaceably assembled organizations that may affiliate with the Republican Party on most of the platform. I do not ever think it is a good idea to shut free speech down. I didn't think it was a good idea when I was on the board, and that's why I stayed till 3 in the morning when I had somebody that was strongly disagreeing with me as a testifier. I was their elected office holder. They had every right to come to me and petition for whatever they wanted petitioned before that was board business. I strongly would not shut out debate from anyone. And I think we're in danger of this fact too, on losing those young people who are culturally conservative, who identify with most of the things on the platform with us. I think that it's very, very important to send them a message that you and I might not agree on everything here, but I welcome debate and I welcome free speech.
Now, the issue, the real controversy was whether or not to give these folks a booth, right? Apparently, obviously, they have the money to pay for the booth, obviously. But the argument would be, and I've heard some say this, okay, what if there was a pro-abortion organization that, for whatever reason, attached themselves to the GOP? Would you be willing, I'm speaking you in a pluralistic term, everybody, anybody, not specifically you, but you have to answer the question, would you be willing to have a pro-abortion group buy a booth and exercise that freedom of speech that we all value at the Texas GOP convention, because those that are opposed to the log cabins would use that example to say, okay, well, what would you do on that? So I ask you, in the interest of consistency, would you maintain that same position? Would you stand firm that they got the cash, they want to voice their opinion? You know,
I think that's apples to oranges, quite frankly.
Okay.
For me, one is pro-death. I would not have any pro-death organization at the state convention, because I do not think that there's any other item that is more important than the right to life. I would not support that. That's a different issue to me. That's an issue about everybody having a right to life.
Terri Leo being strong. Terri, thanks so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. And if anything, I have been an assistant to you, elevating your technical knowledge. Because when we set this up, I don't know anything about Skype. I'm tech challenged. Come on, Terri. Come on. You're running for office. Come on, 21st century. And I got to give you an applause because you've got it together and you discovered how to work Skype. Great job, Terri. Appreciate that. Before I let you go, I have to give you the opportunity, if you do have a website, how people to get in contact with you. Why don't you do that? That would only be fair.
Okay, I have a Facebook page, Terri Leo SD7. I also have a website, and that's Terri S as in Susan Leo.com. TerriSleo.com.
I never knew your middle name was Susan. Now I'm going to tease you. I'm going to start calling you Terri Sue from...
That's what my friends call me.
All your friends call you Terri Sue, huh?
Yeah.
I hope you consider me your friend. I'm going to start calling you, hey, Terri Sue. Terri, thanks so much. There is some time until the convention, and there are many issues out there that the party is having to deal with. And so, who knows? I may have to call on you again and maybe have one or two more follow-up conversations just to see how the campaign is going and getting everyone prepped for the San Antonio convention in the middle of June. Saints and Patriots, that's Terri Leo. She's running for SD7 SREC committee woman. The convention business will be taken care of, and Terri is asking for your vote. Thanks a lot, Terri. Thanks for coming on RER. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Terri Leo. Thanks, Saints and Patriots. Don't cut the stream. This is Raging Elephants Radio, your Texas network, the rebellious voice of Texas liberty. I'll be right back. If you're not listening, you are not learning. Don't cut the stream.